Hello YouTube, Robin Hood Bricks here, and today I'm going to be doing a mock build of a bus and bus stop to put outside our central station in order to finish the last element of our public transport network. Now I'm going to do today's video a little bit differently from usual, and I'm going to do two main stages, the first of which being the design process, where I'm going to run through some of the steps I took in order to design my bus mock, and that's going to be largely based within LDD, or Lego Digital Designer, which is the program that I use to do, well, most of my mock builds, I suppose. And it's not the only one that's available, but it is the one that I use more for historic reasons than anything else. And then the second part of the video, I'll actually build that designed mock, the bus, in real bricks on the build desk. And actually a third part at the end will put the whole thing into Brick Nottingham. So the first thing I do when doing any mock project like this is Google something like Lego bus in this case to look at everything that everyone else has done in the past, because nobody's got the monopoly on good ideas after all, so why not borrow from other people? I don't think there's any shame in taking good ideas and reusing them, especially in something like Lego. I mean, that's what Lego's all about for me. So that's a good place to start. And a second place, which is more the inspiration that I took in this particular build, is looking at past official Lego sets. So I looked at all the sets with Lego buses in that were relevant to the one I wanted to build, and there's quite a few. I didn't really look at the more recent set, 60200 Capital City, which has got the tour bus in it, and I didn't want to use that as inspiration because I've got that tour bus in my city, as you probably know. So although this bus will be similar in many respects in that it's a bus, I don't want it to be exactly the same as that one, although there will be inevitably some similarities, because otherwise it will just be duplicating, and I like diversity, as you know. So there's three other sets that are relatively recent that have got a good bus in them. The first is from 2009, which is set 7641, City Corner, and that had a yellow bus in it, and it's a bit kind of old-fashioned looking, that bus. It's not my favourite. It's only got 5 seats in it, which isn't a great start if you ask me. I want to get a bit more capacity in mine. And it's partially only got 5 seats in it because it's actually quite short. So we'll look at that in more detail in Lego Digital Designer because I've imported each of these buses in. But moving on to the second one, this is from 2010, so only a year later, set 8404, Public Transport. And this is a Lime bus, and I don't really like this one much either. I mean, this one is a bit bigger, which is good, but to me, it just looks like an executive coach, really, rather than a bus. And you could argue, well, what's the difference? But I don't know, it's just got a different vibe from a public bus to a sort of long distance sort of executive coach that you might go on a coach holiday on or something like that. So I think that's the other extreme that I don't want to. The one's too small, maybe this one's too big and too tall. Now, the third bus is from set 60026, Town Square, and that's from 2013. Now, this bus is a lot more to my liking, if I'm honest. It's more medium-sized in the middle there, which is a good compromise between the two we just looked at. It's also red, although my tour bus in the city is already red. I do think that red is quite a sort of characteristic colour for a bus to be, probably from London buses being very famously red. Now, real life Nottingham's buses are kind of a Lincoln green colour, which is kind of lime or maybe even bright green in Lego colours. So I don't want to use that. That'd be pretty disgusting if you ask me. So I think I will stick with a red bus here as well. Now, other things I really like about this particular 60026 bus is the stickers that are all over it. It's got some wonderful adverts. It's got the lovely 143 city sign for the destination on the front of the bus. And it really just sort of fits with my style of build. So I'm going to use that probably as the biggest influence on my bus, but there are several elements of that I don't like. I don't like the back, I don't like the curved at the front, I don't like the doors on it, so there's lots of things I don't like about that set. So I think now we should move to LDD and look at all three of those buses in that program and then try and sort of cherry pick the elements we like to kind of make our own hybrid bus. Okay, so here we are in Digital Designer, and as you can see, I've imported all three of the buses that I'm going to be using as an influence into the program. So we've got the yellow sort of smaller, more blocky bus from set 7641, in the middle the lime and white bus from 8404, and then my favourite of the three, but by no means all the way there, the red bus from 60026. So we can look all around those from every angle. But before we start looking at the good bits and the bad bits with which to use to produce our own bus, I think we need to get these all using the same colour palette, because it's quite distracting when one is yellow and one is lime and one is red, because it's very hard to sort of see which bits you do like in your chosen colour scheme. If you've chosen one already, and I do want to go red. So the way around that is to put them all in the same colour scheme. So here we've got the same three buses, and I've just very quickly changed all of the elements that were a different colour into red and made the stripe down each of them black as well. So they're all in exactly the same palette, and now it's just the physical differences we're looking at really to differentiate between each of them. So now I think it's much fairer to analyse them on this sort of level playing field and see which elements we like. Now, with that first bus, there's not a great deal I do like about this. I think it's too blocky. I really don't like this sort of back windscreen or this sort of inverted slope on the back. I don't really like that. But one thing I do really like is these sort of vents along the back portion of the roof. I think it's much better than using one of these plates here with the sort of curved edges. So I very much like that. So I'm going to basically copy that and stick it over here as a good reminder of the influence that I want to use. Then what else do I like about this? I don't like the fact it's got two doors. Most British buses only have one door at the front, apart from in London perhaps. But another thing I do like is these sort of ledges along the bottom there in between the wheels. So I do like those. So I'm going to copy those and stick them in front as a good influence as well. Now on this middle bus, I've already said it looks too much like an executive coach to me, with these very high seats with a sort of storage underneath and this sort of double height windscreen. I think it's a very good build for that. It's just not one that I want to use. It's also got a full height door both for the passengers and on the other side for the driver, and I don't much like that. But I do like the full height door, so I'm going to put that forward as an influence for our bus. And I've deliberately taken the one on this side because we drive on the left in the UK, so this would be the door that would be curbside for the passengers. Now, another thing I like about this is its length. As we've seen, this one's quite short, this one's quite medium, but this I think is the right proportion. When I look at that, I think it's right, and that's largely because it's got 5 windows down the side. This one, if you ignore the front one, which will be a door, has 1, 2, 3, 4 and kind of a half, and this one's got 4. So I'm going to use the 5 windows as the influence for our bus. The other thing I really like about this one is the back. I just think this sort of flat back with the sort of highlights and the low lights looks much more realistic than this one using another one of these sort of curved plate pieces, and this one with this back windscreen being exactly the same as the front one. So I'm going to basically take a copy of that and put that there as an influence for our bus as well. Now on our final bus, I already said I really like the sign on the front, which has got the destination of the bus, and I've managed to get the pieces with the relevant stickers on, so it's pretty much the very front of this bus I like, so we'll take that. And that includes these lovely wing mirrors. They've all got quite good wing mirrors, but I think these are my favourite. I also really like the adverts that come on this bus. So to remind me of that, I'm going to take these black bricks as a stripe to remind me. And I really don't like these doors. These are the sort of train style doors, and I don't like those. I much prefer this bigger one because it just seems a bit more realistic to me. I've already said I'm going to keep the red, so that's fine. So that is pretty much all the influences that I'm going to steal from these other buses. So clearly I'm going to have a removable roof, but they've all got that. So if we take just a big block there as the rest of the roof, you can see that we've got an idea for the front, we've got an idea for the back, we've got an idea for the roof, we've got a length for the windows and the front door, we've got the rails on the very bottom, and then we're going to incorporate these stripes into our build. So we're about 3/4 of the way there if you think about it, at least in concept. The reality of putting it all together in a cohesive way that actually stays together when it becomes a construction is a whole nother matter. But I think it's a good starting point for us to be able to make that build. Right, let's move on to what I produced. Okay, so here we are, our finished bus. Now, it might be that this looks a bit familiar and you think, well, hold on, what has he changed? Well, quite a lot actually. It's just familiar because we've used all those borrowed elements from the source buses and combined them together in such a sort of seamless way that it's hard to sort of tell it apart from them. Now, if we compare and contrast it with the three that we used as sources, you'll see that mine is the second longest, being just shorter than the executive coach. And that's enabled us to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and a double back 7th seat. And the back seat was always where I used to go as a child, getting the bus into school every day. And that contrasts well with sort of 7 in there, but only 6 in there and only 5 in the originally yellow bus. Also on the height, I've gone for probably about the second tallest as well. Definitely a lot taller than the bus I didn't like, the red one from 60026. And I think it's the right balance between a tall one and a super tall one like the executive coach. But I have kept that front that was on the red bus. I've kept the back, which was on the middle line bus. I've got those vents that we picked that were on the original yellow bus. Got a nice big door, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 windows, 6 on this side where we don't have the door. And I've got it really quite open as well, so it's easy to kind of get onto. And there's the ticket machine for you to scan your ticket or your phone or what have you on. And it's got no real other obstacles over the wheelbase, which is probably the hardest thing to do actually. I mean, you have got the insides of these mudguard or whatever you would call it in the US type pieces, but you know, that's relatively unavoidable. But we have got this sort of snake type sort of pattern pathway rather all the way through. So yeah, I think that's worked as well as we can get it really. We've also kept the nice wing mirrors hanging down, though I've decided to colour them black because it seems to be that they're in the black sort of section of this. And this setup will also allow me to have that lovely sign on the front showing us the destination of the bus, all the adverts down both of the sides, and even the lovely sort of rail feature, which I've augmented even more at each end with another modified plate to replicate that element that I really liked from the first bus. So there we go. There is my plan. And you can see that it is a nice blended but hopefully improved version on all of its predecessors. I'm very happy with it. Do tell me what you think. Now let's go build this in real life Lego bricks. Okay, so here we are back on the build desk and I'm going to show you how I pieced this together and continued designing it, but I'm not going to go through absolutely every step or every piece or it'll just take far too long. So this is the basic chassis, and you can see I've got that load of detailed pieces on each side in between the wheels, and that entire layer all the way along is done in light bluish grey, with the next plate layer being in red and then light bluish grey again on top. And that's just so it's got a bit of a sort of cohesive pattern all the way through, so it looks good when it's built. I've also used these sort of more chunky tyres because I think they actually look good on bigger vehicles like lorries and trucks, because they represent the really big sort of tyres that those vehicles have. Whereas on cars, I think they look a bit too balloony, and I prefer the lower profile ones. And I've used white centres just because I think it will be more of a contrast with the red. Now, at the moment, the only variation we've got is on the front here, because that's going to be one of the steps in at the doorway, which, as I said before, is going to be on the left side because we drive on the left in the UK. So that is the only variation at the moment. And then when you've got something like this, which is sort of right proportions that you want, you may as well put on the parts that you haven't really got much choice in. So I'm going to put on the mudguards or fenders on top of all of the wheels, because, as I say, there's not really much choice in where they go. They have to go there. Now, I decided to incorporate these into the seating as well, because we want to get as many seats in here as possible, but they do actually get in the way, because if you want a seat right in front of it or overlapping with it, you know, it's just going to clash. So I thought, given that these are actually 2 plate heights above the main chassis level, if I put all of the seats 2 plates above that level, then basically I could use these to support some of the seats in certain places. So therefore it would sort of almost be like the whole area was flat and didn't have these lumps on. So to show you what I mean, the front seat, which is actually the driver's seat, I've just got also on this piece, so I can put that in there. And that sort of, with a few more plates, uses the first corner of that piece that we can't move in its support. And then when we get the next one, we can use one stud gap there and then another stud gap in between it and the next one, and keep going down the bus to cram in absolutely as many seats as possible. And you see, I couldn't really have them like that, because then there'd be absolutely no chance of anyone getting through. And although the same could arguably be said of where it is at the moment, at least it's a good attempt. So then again, when we get up to here, I can actually use part of that piece that's immovable as support for the next seat, and then at the very back have a double seat because I've got space for it. So you see, using those bits that I can't move, I've kind of incorporated them into the seating rather than tried to do the 2 things in parallel. So that's worked rather well in that I've got a lot of capacity now. Now the next bit is just to add some structures like this, just to finish off the lower parts of the sides in red. And that back bit therefore is sort of hanging off. I could have connected it a bit, but it will gain a bit of support from the top shortly. So here's the one on the other side. And we need a bit more on the front because that's the side that doesn't have the door. Cool, so there is our bottom bit. Now while we're here, I'll actually add the steering wheel and the kind of, what is it, payment machine. And it's got one of those modified bricks that it's actually all sat on, because that's going to help support the front bumpers and windscreens. And actually that isn't the driver's seat, it's just the front seat. This is the driver. So his seat is there. And I've deliberately gone for a very, very angry looking driver who may be suffering from a bit of road rage. So I thought that would be quite good fun, because I always quite like an angry face. I don't know why I find them funny, but I really do. So I think that is the sort of face you might see in your rear view mirror. Right, so while we're here, let's add some more people. These aren't particularly great people. It's just if you're going to have people on the inside of a bus to make it look nice and busy, you may as well use your sort of least favourite minifigures. So I've just got some random sort of faces and torsos just to use up in there. Right, so I think now we're about ready for some windows and doors. Now when it comes to the windows and doors, above them I'm going to put the string of adverts, and these are the 2 adverts that do come with that set. One for a city museum, which was out in the same sort of city wave, and I will be having a city museum in my city, so that's very appropriate. Also, the other one is the bike shop ad, which is actually from the same set that the 60026 bus came from. So that's very appropriate as well, because that bike shop is also in my city. So I'm going to use both of those stickers. And I'm also been looking through all the other sort of brick adverts that I've got for different things. And these are the ones that I've rejected, mainly because they look better on a different brick colour. Although I could obviously move them using my patented hot tea technique. But in this case, these are the ones that I've rejected, and you'll soon see the ones that I've chosen. So we'll put the door on, and that's the full height door that I very much wanted on the left hand side. And then for the rest of the left hand side, I've got the 5 windows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, with a black plate along the bottom. And then I've got the sign for the bus itself, number 143, going to City. And then I've used a couple of these stickers, one saying XU Trans Trailers and one saying Xtreme. And they're both from the set 4x4 with Powerboat, set 60085. And I picked those two because A, they're adverts and they look sort of very appropriate, but they're also got this sort of lime colouring with white. And I kind of thought the lime would sort of fit with that, and even fit with the museum one that I've used here. So we haven't got too many colours all sort of competing for our attention and sort of clashing on the side of the bus. So there we go. So that is one side. And on the back here, I've just got some modified bricks to hold on what will be the back of the bus. And then this is going to link the two sides together just for a bit of added strength. And the second side has got the bike shop advert in addition to the ones that are on the other side. So I've got two more of the Xtreme and the XU Trans Trailers one, and the museum one as well. So there is our completed set of ads. Bit fiddly getting all this on now with the bracer. There we go. Put that one back on. Put him back in his seat. Okay. So there we go. Very bright adverts. And you can see here as well, we've got the sort of lime colour and the white. And I think they all fit together quite well without being clashy. So that's good. Very happy with that. Next is the front. And I've done it all as one sort of sub-assembly. So you can see I've got the number plate from the original 60026 set on the front, and the sign to show which type of bus it is, the 143. And that'll all clip on the front with studs on the side, and also onto the top with these modified bricks with the curve on. So if I do that, oh, my driver's fallen off. There we go. Push him back in his place. He'll probably fall out again in a minute. Doesn't seem to be the strongest connection there. So there is our front of the bus. So now he's looking really mean in position. He looks fantastic there. I think we've got the ticket machine on view. Yeah, and the two 143 city signs looking fantastic, I think. Good. Then for the back, I've got the other number plate from the same set, and that's on a 2x4 tile. So I can clip that on there, and I've just got the same sort of structure for the back that we had on that lime coloured influence bus. And then I can put on the side bits, which have got all of the cheese wedge pieces and the lights, indicators, brake lights and all the rest of it. So that is the back. Now both the back and the front aren't perfectly secure at the moment, so we'll need a bit of strength. So for the back we can put on this, which is the back part of those vents we wanted in the roof, which were from the yellow bus. And then the other bit of the vents from the yellow bus. And we had to have these on little subsections, sort of sub-assemblies, because they are actually recessed into the normal roof layer. So that means our roof that you can take on and off to look inside is in two sections. And here's the back section, just like that. So that's our lovely recessed sort of venting type system. And then there's our front removable roof. And then I had one more sticker from that 60026 set, which is the City Pizza advert with all its opening times and a big pizza. And that on the original one was kind of there on the back, and I didn't really like the way that looked. I do like the advert though, so I didn't want to not use it. So I've decided to put it on the top. And although you wouldn't often get adverts on the roof of a bus, you might do, because it might be visible from a building or from, I don't know, another another vehicle that's a bit taller, I suppose, or all my aircraft. So rather than not use it at all, I thought I would incorporate it on that piece, which gives us a rather fantastic, colourful and innovative bus in that it uses all of the bits that I liked from all of the other buses. Red bus with a driver that's popped out of his seat again. Can't sit down, can he? No. There we go. Yeah, so I'm really liking that. I really love these sort of sills that stick out from the edge. I really like this band of adverts. I really like that sort of smooth back that I think is very reflective of a real life bus. The adverts around the other side. These nice sort of hanging down mirrors in black, and definitely this 143 city sign as well, not to mention the very angry driver. So yeah, I'm really happy with my MOC bus. Do tell me what you think. Now, after building a bus, the next thing we obviously need is a bus stop. So I've built this. Now it is actually on a 16 by 16 base plate, just temporarily, so I can show you what I've done. And at the very edge of it, I've got a yellow sort of strip, almost like a sort of signal for cars not to park there. And in it, I'm using all of the 1x2 sticker tiles that I've been getting on hauls with the picture of a bus on it. They're from the set 7641 City Corner, the one with the yellow bus we've been looking at earlier. And I've been collecting these for ages. So I'm able to actually use 3 per bus stop, and I'm planning 4 bus stops for my entire city. So I'll have kind of one over the side towards the fairground that we haven't done at all yet, one or maybe 2 near the station, and I've got one near Assembly Square at the moment. And it might be that I do more in the future, but I don't want to do too much of a good thing. So at the moment I've got 12 of these stickers, so 3x4. So they sort of show that you aren't allowed to stop here because a bus does. And then this combination of tiles just accommodates what I'm going to be building on top of it. So the first bit is some seating with a bin in between. So pretty nondescript there. It's the same sort of style of seating that I've used throughout my station, because it will be a sort of citywide transport network. And then I've made use of this map sticker on a trans clear panel piece. Now this originally came with the high-speed passenger train 60051, and it's not entirely appropriate in that you can see that the destinations are things like Berlin, Madrid and Moscow, and I don't think you'd want to get a bus to Moscow from the UK because you'd be on that bus for weeks and weeks, presumably. Long way to go. But nonetheless, from a distance, it does look good, and it's not in use elsewhere in my city, this piece. And I do have a few of them because I've had multiples of that set and even bought more on Bricklink. So that's just a bit of a backdrop to the bus stop. And then I'm using these panel pieces with this lovely curve on. They're often used in trans light blue as kind of waterfall pieces, but I'm using them in white. And these are used in some Star Wars builds and even as kind of a horse box as well. They're often a horse trailer box type thing. But I think that 2 of them like that looks very much like a bus shelter, really. It's a bit small, but I want to make it small because I want it not to take up too much space on my pavements. And then I've just got a couple of more bricks to join everything together. And the last bit of which is the Lego City sign, which is also from the set 60051, that also comes from the sort of mini station build that you get with that set. So I think that looks good as well, even though they'll all say the same thing. I think it still looks good. Now, last but not least to this bus stop is the bus stop sign. So I'm using this flag piece with the sticker on, which says City Centre 143, which actually is the number of our bus. So that's rather a good coincidence, given that this is from the set 60097, which was released a bit later, I think. City Square, that set. It also says that there's another bus, 166 for Park and 319 for Museum, so that's all good as well. And then I've kind of belt and braces. I've put another bus stop sign on, just so you can see it from all directions, really. And this one's from the People Pack, the Fun in the Park, 60134. So then when I put that lamp post there, because it's got a street lamp on the top, of course, to match all my other street lamps, because every single street will be lit by these or similar ones in the future, though they aren't yet. And I think that looks like quite a good place for a bus like this to stop. So it looks something like that, though this will be on the edge of a road plate rather than this one. So yeah, looks something like that. Good, liking that. Now, before we put this up in the Lego room in Brick Nottingham, you know how I do like to have some really interesting scenes with minifigures. And although we've got a very angry bus driver who's quite a fun scene, I did want to incorporate more. So what I've decided to do is incorporate the Season 7 Daredevil, partially because I haven't got a better place to put him, and partially because I had a funny idea that I thought I'd like to give a go. Now, if you don't know, the Season 7 Daredevil is clearly based on the real-life person, Evel Knievel, who was a daredevil, and if you don't know who he is or was, then do Google him because it's well worth a look. But basically, he was a daredevil from back in, I think, the 70s or maybe 80s, and he always used to jump buses on motorbikes, and he would jump a ridiculous distance and sometimes be very successful to massive applause, and sometimes to rather less success, where he would end up in hospital having broken about every single bone in his body. But he was always determined to try it again and have another go. So he became a bit of a cult hero. So I thought I would have my Daredevil jumping this bus. Now, you might think, well, you can't do that, Robin, because you'll need to have a great big ramp in front of the bus. You'll need to close the entire street. You'll need to have the police in attendance. It'll be a heck of a big scene. And I thought you'd like to have variety and density. Well, what I thought I would do is attach him to an old police bike, which I've taken off the police stuff and put on loads of 1x1 tiles with these stars on to represent the stars on the rest of his uniform that he always used to wear, kind of characteristic of the stars and stripes, the American flag. And I thought I'd also mount onto the bottom one of these pieces that can be used as a motorcycle stand, but I'm going to use it to attach him to some of these 1x2x5 transparent bricks, so he kind of looks like he's leaping and he's got a bit of motion to him. And I would attach that to the roof of the bus, sort of about there, so he's mid-jump, and rather than have a ramp and a closed sort of setup, I thought, well, I'll just leave it like that. So wherever the bus is in the city at any one time, Evel Knievel will be jumping it at exactly that moment. And wherever you move it, he'll just be jumping it there instead. So basically, he is kind of a permanent fixture of this bus, a mad daredevil jumping the bus. So I think that's quite good fun. But do let me know if you think that's a bit silly or if I've maybe gone too far this time. Right, let's get this all up in the Lego room. Right, so I think this is where I'm going to put the bus stop in, on this strip of pavement next to the taxi rank outside our main railway station. That does mean I'll have to move the service truck that's changing this street light. He'll have to be working on a different one, I guess. So I'm going to start transferring those across. I haven't got all the tiles yet because they're on their way from Bricks and Pieces, which thankfully is reopened. But I should be able to do a good enough job and get the bus pulling in to pick up some passengers. Okay, so here's our bus stop in position, fully tiled in. And I do like this yellow stripe along the front. I think that looks very appropriate indeed. And I've put a lady patiently waiting for a bus. And speaking of which, here it is, our heavily advertised and advertising bus. I think that fits very well with the bus being right next to the taxi rank, right next to the station. Really completes it as a transport hub. And the only thing to really add on top of that, as discussed earlier, is our Evel Knievel, who is permanently jumping this bus wherever it may be. I do like that. Just adds a bit of a third dimension into the area, a bit of hilarity. Wherever you notice it, you'll see this white bike flying through the air majestically. So I do like that a lot. I imagine that will split my audience pretty much down the middle. Right, let's look at this on a shaky handheld. Yep, he looks terrified. Maybe I should swap his head round so he's looking like the more smug version of himself. He did come with a wonderful hairpiece, actually, that I have to use elsewhere because he really must be wearing a helmet in this scenario, because it will be a bit of a death wish if he didn't. So there's the bus with its passengers. Lovely advertising along it. I think it's just the right proportion, actually. It's good length, not too short, not too tall. And there's the bus stop with lots of stickers on it as well. So I know all you non-stickered people aren't as much of a fan of those as I am. But yeah, I think that looks really good. And there's the transport hub in its entirety. And I've just moved that service truck down the way. You can see that he's got the new bulb to replace the broken one. Very good. So yeah, I think that fits in with the wider area very well. And I think that this movable jumping Evel Knievel idea is a wonderful one myself, but let's see what you think. Good. Very happy with that. It's not often I do a mock vehicle, so a bit of a collector's item. Probably won't be anywhere near as popular as doing a mock train carriage or something like that, but it was one that I was quite looking forward to doing, actually. I think it's come out well. Yeah. So as always, thank you very much for watching. It is appreciated. Do remember to like, comment and subscribe for more awesome LEGO videos. And next time on Robin Hood Bricks, we'll be doing a brick haul on Wednesday, and then it'll be back to the city for another city update on Friday. I haven't fully decided yet, and it may be influenced by what I get on the brick haul, to be honest, but whatever I do, I'm sure I'll have great fun. See you then!